Hello dear children, welcome back to science class. In our last class we have learned how do we separate soluble substances from its solution. We have learned an example of separation of salt from salt solution by the process of evaporation. In today's class we are going to learn how do we separate insoluble substances from a liquid. There are two methods to separate insoluble substances from a liquid. The two methods of separation are sedimentation and decantation and filtration. First, let us see how do we separate insoluble substances from a liquid by the process of sedimentation and decantation. Look into this picture here. Here we have taken a mixture of sand and water in a container like how you see here in the picture. Do you know what happens when sand is mixed with water? Does sand dissolve in water? No, sand does not dissolve in water. Or in other words, we say that sand is insoluble in water. So if you allow this mixture of sand and water taken in a container like this to stand for some time without disturbing them, after few minutes it is observed that all the insoluble sand particles that are heavier will settle at the bottom of the container like how you see here in the picture. So here we see that all the insoluble impurities, that is the sand particles, will have settled at the bottom of this container. If you allow this mixture of sand and water to stand for some more time without disturbing them, we find that all the insoluble impurities have now settled at the bottom, forming a layer of impurities, and we get clear water above this layer of impurities. So this layer of insoluble impurities that has settled at the bottom of this container is called sediment. So as you see here in the picture, all the sand particles, that is the insoluble impurities, have settled at the bottom, and this is called as sediment. Now we are able to differentiate between the clear water and sand particles. This process of settling down of all the insoluble impurities is called as sedimentation. Now let us see how do we separate this sand from clear water. In order to do that, we need to carry out the process of decantation. Now let us see what is decantation. Now after the process of sedimentation is completed, when we pour the clear water into another container with the help of a glass rod like how you see here in the picture, without disturbing the sediment, this process is known as decantation. So in this process of decantation, we pour out the clear liquid into another container with the help of a glass rod without disturbing the insoluble impurities, that is, without disturbing the sediment. This process of separation is called as decantation. So we do decantation after sedimentation. Now let us see what is the next method to separate insoluble substance from a liquid. The next method of separation is filtration. By this method of filtration, we can separate insoluble impurities from a liquid, which means impurities that are not soluble in a liquid. So by the method of filtration, we can separate insoluble impurities like mud and sand. In this method of filtration, we use a filter paper. A filter paper, as you see here in the picture, it is a paper that has got very tiny holes in it. And this filter paper will work like that of a sieve. In this method of filtration, filter paper, as you see here, it is made in the shape of a cone, as you see here in the picture, and then it is kept inside a funnel. Now, the mixture that contains liquid and insoluble solid is poured into the funnel with the help of a glass rod, as you see here in the picture. And this filter paper will not allow the sand particles to pass through it. As we have already learned, filter paper has got very tiny holes in it. Therefore, filter paper does not allow the solid or the insoluble solid particles to pass through it. Therefore, all the insoluble solid particles are collected in this filter paper, while the clear liquid or clear water passes through this filter paper, and it can be collected in a container here that is kept below the funnel, as you see here in the picture. So all the insoluble solid particles that are collected in this filter paper is called the residue, while the clear water or clear liquid that is collected below in this container is called filtrate. So filtrate is the clear liquid that is collected in the container that is kept below the funnel, while residue is the insoluble solid particles that remain in the filter paper. So this method of purifying water is called filtration. So in this method of filtration, we can separate insoluble impurities like mud and sand from water. This method of separation can be done with the help of a filter paper. So now we have learned different methods of separation in case of soluble substances and insoluble substances.